Well, as we just discussed, President Trump made a stunning move yesterday, announcing a 90-day pause on his reciprocal tariffs, with the exception of those on China.
The move shot markets back up yesterday after the move. The S&P was up 9.5%, the Dow was up 7.9%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq up 12.2%. Today, however, all three indices dropped at least 2% each in early trading.
Now, Trump had announced the tariff pause on Truth Social, writing in part, based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the United States to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade, trade barriers, tariffs, currency manipulation, and non-monetary tariffs, and that these countries have not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the United States. I have authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%, also effective immediately.
Trump slapped China, however, with a total of 125% tariffs. The president said he was doing this based on the supposed lack of respect China has shown to the world's markets.
Here is President Trump's team yesterday.
It was the president's decision to wait until today. And again, as I've said in the past, no one creates leverage for himself like President Trump.
Many of you in the media clearly missed the art of the deal. You clearly failed to see what President Trump is doing here.
And here is Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
They keep changing their minds about what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it, and the only victim is the American public, American consumer, the American citizen, the American business.
Around 3 hours before Trump announced his tariff pause, he wrote on Truth Social, "This is a great time to buy DJT." This prompted Democratic lawmakers like Senator Elizabeth Warren to call for an investigation into whether there was any insider trading involved.
Reactions abounded on X. National Review's Charles Cook wrote on X, "Now would be a good moment for Congress to take back its absolute power over tariffs."
Senator Chris Murphy wrote on Blue Sky, "The tariff policy changes every 10 minutes. What a joke. It's nuclear-grade incompetence that would be laughable, except they're ruining people's lives for sport. Just shameful."
So here we are, Niall. We discussed a little bit of this in my radar, but look, I think this is this is good news. I don't want to see lasting tariffs against the rest of the world, including places where we have good trade relations, because tariffs are going to raise prices for Americans and be economically very ruinous, and the markets reacted in that way. I think Trump can, you may quibble with this, but Trump can take a win to his people, say, I've made my point. I actually predicted, Niall, this exact thing would happen several days ago. I'm going to read my tweet. I said that Trump could end the tariffs immediately and say, I have made my point. The rest of the world learned a valuable lesson about disrespecting our great nation. Now we will have free trade and the best economy, maybe ever. That's basically what he said.
That might be what he said, but I mean, I congratulate you on the prescience of your tweet. I strongly disagree with you on the idea that this is some victory for Trump. Trump will never, ever say he backed down. But what happened here is he backed down. He had this policy that was intended to be long-lasting, that was plainly intended to be restoring American manufacturing, which we talked about a little bit in the last segment, and it was a disaster. Trillions wiped off the stock market, the bond market, which I know makes people's eyes glaze over a little bit because it's not the most fascinating topic, but the point is yields were spiking, which would have made the cost for America to service its debt much higher, and that debt is vast, so that was a real problem. Trump alluded in his remarks to people getting a little yippy and to the bond markets being tricky, and he has just, I mean, yes, I'm glad that the policy has been altered, but how much credit should you get for enacting the wrong policy in the first place and then reversing course? And just one thing, Robby, before I'm sure you've many things to say about it, but these people like Scott Bessent and Caroline Levitt saying, oh, this is what Trump intended all along, art of the deal. I mean, it's so ludicrous. It's sort of courtier stuff. It's congratulating the mad king on, driving his car into the wall. Oh, terrific driving technique, sir. That's what you're subjects love about you.
Look, I can't read Trump's mind, as I said. I don't know what his intention was.
Yeah.
I think I know what the more Elon-leading people in the faction, like Scott Bessent, yeah, look, they're in the position of having to, yes, you can't really criticize Trump or say that he's wrong if you're on the conservative side. Do I love that reality? Of course not, but that is the reality. You can criticize other people. You can fight for favor with the Mad King,
right,
and try to influence him, and he has been influenced in the correct direction by people, I think, like Scott Bessent, Elon Musk, and others who want the trade barriers to come down because that's going to promote economic growth. Not all of the trade barriers are coming down. We're having still this targeted issue with China that I think is easier to defend. I think even you think it could make some strategic or diplomatic sense. China is an adversary. China's manipulation of its ripping off of our products,
intellectual property
theft is bad. So much of what it does is bad, and trying to not be reliant on them for pharmaceutical components or microchips or whatever, or car parts, whatever it is, has a national security purpose. Where even if it's making things more expensive for us, we might be clear-eyed and choose to do that because we can't be reliant on them, because what if it comes to war or conflict? That's a very different situation than saying we're just going to make things more expensive because building things in America makes us feel good or nostalgic or something,
right,
which they were not going to. I know Peter Navarro wants them in place long enough for that to happen. Yeah. I know others do. Steve Bannon maybe. You got played, guys. It was never going to happen.
Well,
sorry. You lose. We win, you lose.
Getting played, though, I mean, I'm not sure that I agree with that interpretation, because I think, you're making it sound as if there were these rival factions having an argument that was very sort of abstract and high-minded, and Trump eventually came down on the Elon side of the argument. Trump ultimately came down on the Elon side of the argument because the markets were hemorrhaging value, because the bond markets were going the wrong way, because the people like Jamie Dimon were talking about the increase in recessionary risk. This is not, despite what Caroline Levitt might want to say, the master art of the deal guy figuring it all out. This is the Mad King coming out with a dumb policy, which he then reverses a week later to try to avoid the full manifestations of its dumbness.
Well, look, I would resolve this by, I agree with Charles Cook, absolutely, and in most respects. I do not think the president, any president, not specifically Trump, any president, the office of the presidency, the executive branch, should have the power to unilaterally impose tariffs. This is clearly something Congress should do through legislation. Congress is the deliberative rulemaking body. That is what our founders intended. Congress has forfeited all of its authority basically to the president, especially when the Congress and the president are controlled by the same parties. There's just no friction whatsoever. So I agree with actions taken by Rand Paul and others to try to return this power to Congress so that you won't have this happen again in the future. I think much like we haven't talked about this on Rising, but the TikTok ban pause was also a 90-day pause that has just been extended again. Again, another case where Congress declared, actually did pass a law that was then signed and said, ban TikTok. And Trump said, I don't really feel like it. And Congress, despite having done this ban recently, has totally changed its mind. Even Democrats have kind of changed their mind and said, let's not.
Yeah.
Similarly, I think that the tariff, I think there will be another renewal, and another renewal, and another renewal.
I would say there'll be many pauses, a permanent pause.
Yes.
And just on the point of Congress, or rather, relatedly, in the spirit of talking outside our partisan positions as representing the left and the right here, I did think the charge of insider trading was kind of absurd, because the charge of insider trading is based upon a Truth Social post that he sent out to anyone who is reading his Truth Social. The point of insider trading is, I know that a company is going to do something, and I say, Robby, this company is going to do something, and you buy or sell accordingly. It's not making public calls that people can heed or defy if they wish.
It's a very good point, Niall. Thank you for making it. Up next, Bernie Sanders was on CNN and had some choice words for the network. We will discuss. Stay with us.